It was supposed to be just another night on the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta set. Cameras rolling, music blasting, fans waiting for the next explosive episode. But what unfolded behind the scenes turned into one of the most shocking, jaw-dropping, and emotionally charged moments in reality TV history. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin, a couple fans have followed for years, faced a betrayal that shook them to their core. Sources say the night began like any other, with both of them preparing for the show, rehearsing lines and interacting with their crew. But beneath the surface, tension had been building for months, little arguments left unresolved, unspoken frustrations, and the constant pressure of fame bubbling quietly. And then, it all exploded. A trusted member of Jim's inner circle reportedly leaked private footage, capturing raw, unfiltered moments of Chrissy's emotional breakdown and Jim's intense reaction. What was meant to be a private conflict became a public spectacle, leaving both Jim and Chrissy feeling exposed, betrayed, and angry. The leak sent shockwaves through their team, the production crew, and most importantly, their relationship. Fans watching at home were stunned, replaying every second of the leaked footage, trying to piece together what led to this unprecedented meltdown. For Jim and Chrissy, it wasn't just about the leak, it was about loyalty, trust, and the realization that even the closest people to them could turn against them in an instant. This night would forever change their dynamic, their trust, and their career. What happened backstage would set the stage for drama, confrontation, an emotional reckoning that fans would never forget. Backstage on that fateful night, the atmosphere was electric, but not in a good way. Usually, the set of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta buzzed with energy, laughter, and the usual tension of reality TV production. But this night was different. Something hung in the air, a mix of anticipation, unease, and an invisible storm brewing just beneath the surface. Everyone on set could feel it. Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin were on edge. Jim arrived first, his usual confident stride replaced with a calculated, almost cautious pace. His hood was pulled low, sunglasses shielding his eyes, and his jaw was tight, revealing the stress simmering beneath. He kept his movements deliberate, almost methodical, as he passed the cameras and crew. Tone, one of his closest allies, stayed close, sensing the heightened tension. He knew that one wrong word or gesture could ignite a fire that no one would be able to control. Chrissy appeared shortly afterward, walking past the cameras with her usual poise, though the stiffness in her shoulders betrayed the emotional strain she carried. She avoided eye contact with Jim entirely, her attention focused on her phone as she navigated the hallway toward her dressing room. Production staff moved quickly to prevent any interaction, aware that the energy between the couple was volatile and unpredictable. The tension had been building for weeks, perhaps even months. Small disagreements that once faded away now carried weight, compounded by the pressure of being constantly filmed. Little comments, minor slights, and unspoken frustrations had all accumulated. And tonight, they were about to reach their breaking point. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly. One of Jim's longtime crew members made an offhand remark, seemingly harmless, but the timing was critical. Chrissy, already emotionally taxed, snapped. "You think that's funny?" she demanded, her voice trembling but sharp, cutting through the background noise of the bustling set. The comment, though minor in context, felt like the final straw, the catalyst that would unleash the storm that everyone backstage had been sensing. Jim moved toward her, hands raised in an attempt to calm the situation. But Chrissy wasn't willing to back down. "Don't step in," she said firmly. "This isn't about you. This is about respect." The look in her eyes was fierce, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like the wall between them had finally cracked. The argument escalated rapidly. Chrissy's voice rose, fueled by a mix of anger, hurt, and long-suppressed frustration. "You always let them disrespect me. You choose them over me every single time," she shouted, her words sharp and cutting. Jim, caught off guard, reacted defensively. "I don't choose them over you. I can't control everyone." His voice carried a mix of frustration and desperation. His crew watched silently, unsure whether to intervene or stay out of the crossfire. This wasn't just an argument. It was a confrontation that laid bare years of unresolved tension. Tone, recognizing the escalating situation, stepped in cautiously. "Yo, y'all need to chill." "Not here, not now," he said. But Chrissy turned on him, her glare sharp and unwavering. "Don't tell me to chill. You're part of the problem." The usually unshakable balance between Jim and Chrissy had shattered. Chrissy, frustrated and emotionally raw, stormed toward her dressing room, the sound of her heels echoing across the hall. Jim followed a few steps behind, muttering under his breath, his face a mask of anger and confusion. Cameras were rolling, capturing every moment. But nothing could prepare the crew for the intensity of what was unfolding. Inside the dressing room, voices escalated further. Chrissy accused Jim of consistently prioritizing his crew over their relationship, while Jim defended his loyalty to those who had been with him through thick and thin. Words that had been left unspoken for years now poured out. Raw and unfiltered. Production staff attempted to mediate, but the emotion in the room was palpable. Crew members described it as the most intense argument they had ever witnessed between the two. Jim's frustration was evident in the set of his shoulders, the tightness of his jaw, and the sharpness of his words. Chrissy's anguish was equally visible. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice quivered with a mix of anger and hurt. At one point, Chrissy's emotions overwhelmed her completely. She broke down in sobs, the sound echoing through the dressing room, catching everyone off guard. Jim, momentarily stunned, didn't know whether to comfort her or step back. For years, they had managed public scrutiny and private disagreements with a level of composure that now seemed impossible to maintain. "Jim, do you always put everyone else first?" Chrissy shouted between sobs. "You let them disrespect me. You let them talk down to me, and then you expect me to just move on." Jim's eyes narrowed, frustration mingling with a growing sense of helplessness. "I can't control everyone, Chrissy. I can't. I've been patient. I've tried. But this isn't easy." Tone tried again to intervene, his voice low and calm. "Let's take a step back. This isn't the moment for this." Quatizi's gaze cut right through him, sharp and accusatory. "You don't get to tell me to take a step back. You're part of why this happens." The room grew silent as the weight of her words sank in. Jim rubbed his temples, trying to gather himself, but the frustration and hurt were written all over his face. "Chrissy, I don't want this to get worse," he said, voice strained. "I don't want to fight like this." But Chrissy's response was unwavering. "Then why do we keep ending up here, Jim? Why does it always have to be a fight? I can't keep doing this. I'm exhausted." The argument raged on for hours, emotionally exhausting everyone present. Crew members quietly recorded fragments of the confrontation, fully aware that this raw and unfiltered scene was something the public would dissect for weeks to come. The cameras captured not just an argument, but the fracture of a relationship, the collision of fame, trust, loyalty, and personal vulnerability. Eventually, Chrissy turned abruptly and stormed out of the room, leaving Jim momentarily frozen in place. His crew quickly followed, trying to calm him down, but the emotional impact of the night was evident. The usually composed rapper was visibly shaken, his jaw clenched, eyes narrowed, and shoulders tight with tension. Production staff attempted to regroup the set and continue filming, but the energy had shifted irreversibly. Everyone backstage understood that what had occurred wasn't just another argument, it was a turning point, a revelation of deep-seated issues that neither Jim nor Chrissy could ignore by the end of the night. Both Jim and Chrissy had retreated to separate spaces, physically apart but mentally processing the events. The leaked footage that would later circulate online captured only a portion of what happened. But even that snippet revealed enough to send shockwaves through the fan base. Social media exploded with speculation, analysis, and judgment, each viewer piecing together the dynamics of a relationship under extraordinary pressure. As the night concluded, one thing was clear: the trust, loyalty, An emotional connection between Jim and Chrissy had been tested to the limit. What had started as a seemingly ordinary night on the set became a defining moment. A point of no return that would influence the trajectory of their relationship, their careers, and their presence on the show. The aftermath of that night would be felt for weeks, months, and possibly years to come. The raw, unfiltered emotions, the public exposure of private disputes, and the challenges of navigating trust and betrayal in the world of fame created a storm that neither of them would forget. Behind the cameras, the real story was unfolding, one of love, loyalty, frustration, and the human struggle to balance personal relationships with public life. By the time the set was empty and the lights went down, it was evident that this night would be remembered as the night everything changed for Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin, a night of betrayal, heartbreak, and a turning point that would shape the future of their relationship and the reality TV world around them. The day after that explosive night, the Love and Hip Hop Atlanta set was tense, almost suffocating. The air seemed heavier than usual, and everyone backstage moved cautiously. Aware that the emotional storm between Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin hadn't passed, fans had already gotten wind of what happened through leaked clips, and social media buzzed with speculation, dissecting every facial expression, word, and gesture. The couple's private struggles were suddenly public, and the pressure to maintain composure while filming was immense. Jim arrived first, his demeanor rigid, almost mechanical. His hood was up, sunglasses shielding his eyes. But the tight set of his jaw and the tension in his shoulders betrayed the turmoil he felt inside. His crew followed closely, aware that any misstep could trigger another confrontation. Tone stayed beside him, keeping a careful watch on both Jim and the surrounding crew, knowing the fragile balance could shatter at any moment. Chrissy entered later, her usually calm and polished appearance slightly shaken. The exhaustion from the night before was evident, but she maintained her composure as she navigated the set, avoiding eye contact with Jim. Production staff quickly moved to create distance, aware that even a minor interaction could reignite yesterday's heated argument. Chrissy retreated to her dressing room, focusing on reviewing her lines and preparing for the shoot. Though the weight of emotions from the night before lingered heavily, the leaked footage had already made rounds online, showing Chrissy's emotional breakdown and Jim's intense response. Fans were dissecting the clip, debating who was at fault, and speculating about the state of their relationship. Insiders on set said that the footage captured raw, unfiltered emotions. And while only a fraction of the night's events were shown, it was enough to reveal cracks that had long been hidden beneath the surface. Producers decided it was necessary to address the situation before continuing filming. They arranged a private meeting with Jim and Chrissy, cameras off, to try to mediate and calm the escalating tension. Jim sat down first, leaning back, arms crossed, jaw tight. His usual confident energy was replaced by a mixture of frustration and exhaustion. Chrissy arrived a few moments later, composed on the outside but visibly tense, hands clasped tightly in her lap. The producer spoke cautiously. "We need to figure out how to move forward. The clip is out there, and fans are reacting. You have a choice. Address it on camera or handle it privately, but it can't spill over into today's shoot." Chrissy's voice, firm but measured, broke the silence. "It's not about cameras. This is about respect, boundaries, and years of unresolved issues." That argument didn't happen for the cameras. It happened because of real feelings and frustration that had been ignored for too long. Jim finally spoke, his tone low but loaded with emotion. "I know. I didn't handle it right. But I also didn't expect it to go public. It wasn't supposed to be seen by anyone." The tension in the room was thick. Both understood that the events of the previous night were more than a fight. They were a revelation of deep-seated cracks in their relationship. Trust had been shaken and loyalty questioned. Crew members watched silently, aware that this confrontation would define how the rest of the filming day unfolded by mid-morning. Filming began, but the energy was markedly different. Every conversation between Jim and Chrissy was charged, every glance heavy with unspoken words. Even casual interactions were fraught with tension, and the crew moved cautiously, avoiding anything that might provoke another outburst. At one point, Chrissy confided in a close friend on set. "I can't keep feeling invisible, like my feelings don't matter," she said quietly. "He's loyal to everyone else, but when it comes to me, I'm supposed to just take it and move on." Her friend nodded, offering support while acknowledging the public stakes. "You're right to feel that way," they said. "But you also have to consider how fans will react if things escalate again." Meanwhile, Jim met with his crew privately to address the leaked footage. "I don't know who did it," he said, voice tense, "but someone betrayed the trust of this whole team. We can't have that." Tensions rose as crew members exchanged nervous glances. No one wanted to be accused, but the suspicion in the room was palpable. Jim's usually calm demeanor had been replaced by a controlled intensity, a mix of anger and hurt. As the day went on, both Jim and Chrissy tried to perform professionally, but the emotional residue from the night before lingered. Each scene, each line was a struggle to maintain composure. The public had already seen fragments of the argument. About every move they made was being analyzed, dissected, and judged. By afternoon, the pressure escalated. Tone, sensing the tension, approached Jim quietly. "Yo, Jim, I think we need to talk before it blows up again," he said. Jim nodded, appreciating the intervention but feeling cornered. He knew that addressing the underlying issues was unavoidable, but confronting them in public would create even more drama. Production eventually called for a private mediation session between Jim and Chrissy. Cameras were off, but the stakes were high. Jim spoke first, his voice steady but carrying underlying tension. "I don't want another fight like last night, but I can't ignore what happened either." Chrissy's response was calm, yet firm. "I don't expect you to ignore it. I just want respect and acknowledgement. Loyalty that includes me, not just everyone else in your circle." Jim exhaled, the weight of the previous night pressing down on him. "You're right. I got defensive instead of listening. I need to do better." Chrissy softened slightly but kept her guard up. "It's not just about listening. It's about showing that my feelings matter too, even when tensions are high." The discussion was long, emotionally draining, and difficult, but it was a start. Both realized that rebuilding trust would take time and consistent effort. It wasn't a resolution, okay? But it was the first step toward acknowledging the deeper issues that had caused the meltdown. Later, an unexpected revelation shook the set further. Tone approached Jim quietly with new information. "I know who leaked the footage. It wasn't me or anyone else you suspected. It was Darnell. He said he needed money and thought no one would trace it back to him." Jim's reaction was immediate and intense. "Darnell? Are you serious?" The betrayal was profound. Darnell had been part of Jim's inner circle for years, someone who had shared milestones, studio sessions, and personal moments. That someone he trusted so deeply could turn on him for money struck at the core of everything he valued. The confrontation with Darnell was swift. Jim demanded answers directly, his voice sharp, echoing through the hallway. Security intervened to prevent escalation, but the emotional impact was unmistakable. The realization that trust could be broken from within was a hard lesson, one that both he and Chrissy would have to process. Chrissy, observing from a distance, recognized the depth of Jim's frustration. For once, the argument wasn't just about her feelings. It was about loyalty, betrayal, and the foundation of trust within their inner circle. She understood the gravity of the situation and the potential implications for both their relationship and their careers. By evening, both Jim and Chrissy retreated to their separate spaces, reflecting on the events of the day. They were physically apart but mentally intertwined, processing the emotional turmoil, the betrayal, and the public exposure of their private struggles. The leaked footage, though partially addressed, remained a constant reminder that fame magnifies mistakes. Trust can be fragile, and emotions are never private when cameras are present. Both Jim and Chrissy knew the road ahead would require patience, communication, and a commitment to rebuild not just their relationship, But the trust that had been shattered. The set quieted down as night approached, but the emotional impact lingered. Crew members, producers, and friends recognized that this wasn't just another reality TV moment. It was a turning point, a night that tested the strength of Jim and Chrissy's relationship, their resilience, and their ability to navigate betrayal in a world where every moment is captured, analyzed, and judged. Analyzed and judged. By the time the lights dimmed and filming wrapped, the message was clear. Trust had been tested, loyalty had been questioned, and emotions had been laid bare. For Jim and Chrissy, the challenge was internal rebuilding their relationship in the face of public scrutiny and private betrayal. And while the night's chaos was over, the consequences would reverberate for weeks, months, and possibly years. The night had forever changed the dynamic between Jim and Chrissy. The raw emotions, leaked footage, and exposed vulnerabilities created a new reality they couldn't ignore. Both understood that moving forward required more than apologies. It demanded honesty, effort, and a commitment to prioritize each other amid the pressures of fame and public attention. The events of the day left one undeniable truth. Reality television may capture moments, but the real story, the story of loyalty, betrayal, love, and trust unfolds in the spaces between the cameras. For Jim and Chrissy, this was just the beginning of a long and challenging journey to repair not only their relationship, but the fractured trust within their circle. Backstage the following evening, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The events of the previous night had left the set charged, the air buzzing with anticipation, fear, and the lingering sting of betrayal. Crew members moved cautiously, avoiding eye contact with Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin, fully aware that the emotional storm between the couple was far from over. What had started as a disagreement had spiraled into a full-blown crisis, leaving everyone wondering what the next eruption would look like. Jim arrived first, his usual confident gait replaced by a measured, almost deliberate pace. His hood was up, sunglasses shielding his eyes, but the tight set of his jaw and the slight tremor in his hands betrayed the emotional turmoil he carried. Tone, ever vigilant, stayed close, watching both Jim and the surrounding crew, sensing that the fragile equilibrium of the day could shatter with a single misstep. Chrissy entered shortly afterward, composed but visibly tense. She moved quickly past the cameras, eyes fixed ahead, determined to avoid Jim and the prying eyes of the crew. Production staff quietly intervened, guiding her to her dressing room. Understanding that the smallest interaction could reignite yesterday's heated argument, the leaked footage had already circulated online, sparking debates and speculation that only heightened the pressure on the couple. By mid-morning, the producers called a private meeting with Jim and Chrissy to try and mediate the tension. Cameras were off, but the stakes were high. Jim sat down first, leaning back, arms crossed, jaw tight. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a combination of frustration and exhaustion. Chrissy arrived a few moments later, sitting across from him with her hands clasped tightly, her posture tense but controlled. "I don't want to fight again," Jim began, his voice low but steady. "But we can't keep ignoring what happened. This isn't just about the footage, it's about trust, loyalty, and respect." Chrissy's response was firm but measured. "I know. And it's not just about me. It's about us, our team, and the people who are supposed to have our backs." That leak showed more than emotions. It showed a fracture in everything we've built. The conversation was long and tense, but it was a start. Both recognized that the public argument, the leaked footage, and the betrayal within their crew had exposed deeper issues that needed to be addressed. Jim admitted that he had been defensive, but he also expressed frustration at the disloyalty he had discovered in his inner circle. Chrissy acknowledged her hurt and emphasized that loyalty meant more than words. It required consistent action and acknowledgement of her feelings. As the day progressed, filming resumed, but the energy was palpably different. Every exchange, every glance carried the weight of the previous night's conflict. Crew members and producers tiptoed around the couple, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy while being acutely aware of the volatile emotions simmering just beneath the surface. Mid-afternoon brought another twist. Tone approached Jim discreetly with information about the leak. "I know who did it," he said quietly. "It wasn't any of us you suspected. Darnell, he sold the footage for money. He thought no one would find out." Jim's reaction was immediate, a mix of disbelief and anger. Darnell? After all these years? The betrayal struck at the core of his trust. Darnell had been part of Jim's inner circle for nearly a decade. Someone who had shared personal milestones, studio sessions, and countless moments that defined their bond. To learn he had turned against them for financial gain was a shock that reverberated through Jim's entire world. Confronting Darnell was inevitable. Jim demanded answers directly, his voice sharp, echoing through the hallway. Security intervened to prevent escalation, but the emotional impact of the betrayal was clear. Jim's usual calm, controlled demeanor had given way to raw, visible frustration. This was no longer just a matter of a leaked video. It was a fundamental breach of loyalty that cut deep, Chrissy observed from a distance. Recognizing the depth of the impact on Jim, for once, the argument wasn't solely about her or her feelings, it was about the integrity of their inner circle. The betrayal of trust and the foundation of relationships that had been built over years. She realized that rebuilding trust wouldn't just be about apologies between them, but about navigating the broader fallout from disloyalty and betrayal within their team. The evening filming required both Jim and Chrissy to perform, but the weight of the day hung over every scene. Every line delivered, every interaction captured on camera, carried the residual tension. The cameras didn't just record scripted moments, they captured raw, authentic emotions, a testament to the real-life impact of the previous night's events. Fans watching at home were analyzing every second, speculating about motives, alliances, and the long-term impact on the couple's relationship during a break. Chrissy spoke quietly to a close friend on set. "I feel like I've been invisible in his world," she said softly. "He's loyal to everyone else, but when it comes to me, I'm always last. I can't keep feeling that way." Her friend listened intently, offering quiet reassurance. "You're not invisible, but you also have to decide what you're willing to accept. This isn't just a show, it's your life and your emotional well-being." Meanwhile, Jim met privately with his core team to strategize. "We can't let this divide us," he said firmly. "Darnell's betrayal is serious, but it doesn't define us. We handle this, we fix the leaks, and we move forward." The crew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Trust had been broken, and rebuilding it would require vigilance, honesty, and a renewed sense of loyalty. As the night approached, both Jim and Chrissy retreated to private spaces to process the events. The leaked footage remained a looming presence, a reminder that every private moment had the potential to become public fodder. They knew that repairing the damage would require more than apologies. It would require sustained effort, transparency, and a commitment to each other that went beyond words. Despite the challenges, a subtle shift began to emerge. Jim recognized the need to set boundaries and protect the integrity of his inner circle, while Chrissy acknowledged the importance of asserting her feelings and demanding respect. Both understood that this wasn't a temporary setback. It was a defining moment, one that would shape the trajectory of their relationship and their careers moving forward. Production staff and crew, meanwhile, reflected on the day with a mixture of awe and apprehension. They had witnessed raw emotion, betrayal, and conflict unfold in real time. A reminder of the pressures that fame and public scrutiny bring. Social media buzzed nonstop, with fans dissecting every interaction, and industry insiders watching closely, swear that these events could redefine the dynamics of reality. Television storytelling. By the time the lights dimmed and filming wrapped, the impact of the night was undeniable. Trust had been tested, loyalties questioned, and emotions laid bare. Jim and Chrissy had survived the storm, but the challenges ahead were clear: rebuilding trust, navigating the fallout from betrayal, and maintaining their relationship under intense public scrutiny. The night marked a turning point. While it had begun with chaos, emotional breakdowns, and raw confrontation, it ended with a glimmer of understanding. Both Jim and Chrissy knew that moving forward would demand honesty, patience, and a commitment to communication. The leaked footage, the betrayal of their inner circle, and the intense scrutiny of fans had revealed vulnerabilities, but also the potential for growth, healing, and renewed loyalty as the couple departed the set separate but mentally intertwined. The message was clear: reality television may capture moments, but the real story, the story of loyalty, betrayal, love, and resilience unfolds behind the cameras in private spaces, and in the choices made when no one is watching. Jim and Chrissy had faced one of the biggest challenges of their career, and the journey to rebuild trust, protect their bond, and navigate fame's pressures had only just begun. The night everything changed was over, but the consequences would ripple for weeks, months, and possibly years. One thing was certain: the true drama was just beginning, and the world would be watching every step of the way. The betrayal, leaked footage, and backstage chaos have left Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin facing the toughest test of their relationship yet. Fans everywhere are watching closely, dissecting every interaction, every expression, and every word. The question now isn't just about the drama. It's about whether trust can be rebuilt, loyalty restored, and love preserved in the middle of public scrutiny. This is your front row seat to the raw, unfiltered truth behind the scenes of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, from emotional breakdowns to shocking betrayals within their own crew. Jim and Chrissy's journey is as intense as it is unpredictable. Every twist and turn reveals more about the pressures of fame, the fragility of trust, and the power of emotional honesty. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on every explosive moment, every behind-the-scenes revelation, and every shocking twist with Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin. This is a Puzzle Swipe, your ultimate source for the truth, the drama, and everything fans are dying to see. Don't miss what happens next. The night that changed everything was just the beginning, and the story is far from over.